All right, everybody, we are live. We are live on the Murph and sometimes Edubs show. That's right. I call this the sometimes Edubs show because Edubs always seemed to be on some kind of mission. He said Friday night that he was going to the Nets game with some friends he knows from Israel. I don't know. Let's see what happens with that when he gets back on the show for the sometimes Edubs show. But anyway, we got a lot to talk about. It's Super Bowl Sunday, guys. And Super Bowl Sunday is the day where we kick back, relax, and enjoy football. We can enjoy a football game because there are sometimes a lot of the players, a lot of the fans out there, their team isn't playing on Super Bowl Sunday. Me having the luxury to enjoy a Super Bowl for every single Sunday of my entire life because my Jets will not make the Super Bowl and will not win or play in a Super Bowl until Mr. Namath happens to pass away. So I don't know if that's good juju or bad juju to give Joe Namath on Super Bowl Sunday. But you know what? I, for one, think that that's the only way the Jets are ever going to excel and win a Super Bowl. We're going to talk about the Hall of Fame today. The Hall of Fame was inducted over the weekend, and there was one name that was noticeably missing. I mean, Giant fans might be a little upset about that, but we are going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Hall of Fame. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl. We're going to talk about some stories that are going around in the NFL about some unhappy players on the defensive line for their respective team. There's a lot of stuff going on in the NBA. Celtics beat the Knicks last night. That was a big game. Celtics needed to win that game, as did the Knicks. Celtics 131 to 104. Seems like a pretty big win to me. Jimmy Butler plays for the Warriors. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work out. Got the Cavs in first place. OKC is one more year more mature. Shai Alexander, number one scorer in the league, averaging 31 points. You got the Lone Ranger who just goes on from team to team and decides one year from the other. Do I want to trade? Do I not want to trade? Or I might just stay here. KD is still with the Suns. He did not get traded. And let's see what happens there because I don't know if I'm not even going to say that and speak on that because I don't know if that happened. The Nets are still lost. I don't know what's going on with them. The Nets cannot find an identity. The Nets can never find an identity. And you know what that means? That means it has to be the ETS in their name because the Jets, the Nets, and wait a second, I think the Mets are starting to find an identity. You know, we're going to talk about a little baseball today, but I'm going to talk about that last because, like I said to you guys before, it is a big day in the sports world because the Super Bowl is key and football is key. So a little later on, we are going to get into a little NBA. We are going to get into my prospective lineup for the New York Mets. But first, it's Super Bowl week. That's right, guys. It's Super Bowl week. We got a lot of stories. We got the NFL. We got the NFL being announced. Now, the NFL Hall of Fame was announced over the weekend. Now, you got four guys that were inducted into the Hall of Fame. You got Eric Allen. He was a beast in Philly, deserving of the Hall of Fame. He was a beast at cornerback. He hit hard, had a lot of interceptions, and that's a man that should be in the Hall of Fame. Jared Allen, sack machine, ass kicker his entire career. Jared Allen does deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Antonio Gates. Anybody remembers Antonio Gates? Antonio Gates was a tight end, played for the Chargers, and I think he was pretty good if I do remember correctly. Now, here's a name that was on the list that not that I forgot about him, but when you hear his name, and I was like, wow, thought maybe he would have been in the Hall of Fame a lot more sooner. But you know what? Sterling Sharp made the Hall of Fame over the weekend. Now, Sterling Sharp making the Hall of Fame and watching Shannon Sharp, his brother, go to his house, ring his doorbell and make the whole introduction and everything was pretty cool. And I think that that is a really cool part about what the NFL does when they go to people's houses and they let them know that they're going to be immortalized in the Hall of Fame. I thought Sterling Sharp would have been immortalized a long time ago, but I don't know if anybody knows anything about his career. Green Bay Packer fans should definitely know about his career. So he was a pretty damn good wide receiver and big time deserving of the Hall of Fame. We're going to get to a name now that a lot of people have been talking about. A lot of people are saying that this man doesn't deserve the Hall of Fame. And a lot of people out there are saying that this man does deserve the Hall of Fame. But really what I'm coming up with is when you say this man's name, Eli Manning, what's the first thing you think about? First thing you think about with Eli Manning is Eli Manning beat the greatest quarterback ever to put on Super Bowl cleats. That's right. He beat Tom Brady and Bill Belichick twice. Okay. Tyreek, was it? What was that pass? I forgot it was called. David Tyree bought the ball on his helmet. But you've been listening and you watch all the stories and you remember the Super Bowl. What people do fail to remember is the fact that Eli scrambled his ass off, got out of the pocket, and threw that ball. David Tyree made a really good catch, but Eli Manning came up in a big moment. You also forget during that series, I think it was that one, or it might have been the other one, where he showed up against a Brett Favre led team that was, needless to say, it was very cold that day. Everybody thought Eli looked scared on the sidelines. Everybody thought that Eli was just going to fold. Everybody thought that the New York Giants could not come in to Lambeau Field and win that playoff game. Eli pulled it off. There's a lot of magic that happens in stuff that Eli does when it comes to the playoffs because he's always seems to have come up big. And when I mean big, by winning two of the biggest Super Bowls that I think that maybe any quarterback in the history, because the 18-0 New England Patriots were poised to be undefeated, and Eli Manning did not let that happen. It was a pretty good defense on that Giants team too, but other than that, I think you would say that Eli Manning definitely came through in a big spot. Now you're going to listen to the people that are not fans of the Giants and don't live in the New York area. I don't think we'd be having this conversation right now if we weren't in New York, or Eli Manning maybe played for the Detroit Lions and did what he did, maybe. And maybe he played for the Cleveland Browns, or maybe he played for even the Jets. Now, Eli Manning, at best, is a little bit better than a mediocre quarterback in the regular season. He threw a lot of interceptions. He played every day. I mean, you look at his stats, he was always in the game. I think he played 500, was it 500 games in a row or something like that? Some kind of sick number. But anyway, he was an Iron Man. He was poised. He was calm. He didn't, even when he was under pressure, he didn't look like he was under pressure. He always had that look on his face. The Hall of Fame committee decided that Eli Manning is not going to become a member of the Hall of Fame, not this time. 4 guys made it ahead of him, and Eli did not. And as they say in the world of the Hall of Fame, not this year, Eli, maybe next year. But I got to tell you, if anybody looks at the Hall of Fame selections from last year, from this year, that are going to be possibly selected next year, Eli Manning has even a tougher class to go up against. You got guys like Larry Fitzgerald on that list. You got a whole bunch of guys that are really deserving of the Hall of Fame. So I think Eli Manning is going to be up against it for the next couple of years. I mean, was there any conspiracy theories back in the day that because the way Archie Manning bullied Eli Manning onto the Giants, maybe that came back to bite him in the ass? I'm not saying that's true, but people have been saying that. Are people out there saying that they're just sick and tired of the Manning family thinking that they deserve stuff? I don't see that either, because I don't see the Manning family as that kind of family. Although I don't know too much about Archie, I don't think Peyton's that way, because if Peyton was that way, he would have been hammering on the door of the Hall of Fame for the last couple of weeks saying, you guys better let my brother in. I'm not doing any more promotions for you guys. But that's not true either, because Peyton, deserving Hall of Famer, one of the greatest regular season quarterbacks ever. Peyton's brother, Eli, really good playoff quarterback, mediocre regular season quarterback. And that is why he's going to have a really hard road getting to the Hall of Fame the next couple of years. Okay, now I, bashed Eli a little bit. Not that I really bashed him, but I just kind of like, I'm not a Giant fan, so I really don't have those big memories. I mean, I'm a football fan, and I just got to look at it from a perspective of just being a football fan. And Eli Manning is not a Hall of Famer in my eyes. I mean, I'm going to get beat up by some of my Giant fan friends by saying that, but at the end of the day, you guys are the ones that saw it. You guys are the ones that are saying that he should be a Hall of Famer. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm saying maybe it's just a matter of you guys maybe getting caught up in the moment. And Eli Manning was our savior, and he won the 2 Super Bowls. Awesome. Like I said, those are 2 of the biggest wins in Super Bowl history. But does it bring it to the Hall of Fame? I don't know. Some people think championships do bring it to the Hall of Fame, me being one of them. So it's definitely up for debate. It's definitely up for debate from Giant fans and people just watch football. And let's see what happens next year, Eli. Well, good luck. I know we're going to see your face all over the Super Bowl commentary today. We're going to see your brother. We're going to see Belichick. We're going to see all the usual suspects. So during today's Super Bowl cast. Okay. Before I get into the Super Bowl, I got a couple things to talk about here. Myles Garrett, free agent. Is Myles Garrett a free agent? No, he's not a free agent. Myles Garrett wants to be traded. Myles Garrett's unhappy playing in Cleveland. Myles Garrett is unhappy of the Cleveland organization not getting anything in form of a quarterback or anything in the form of some kind of offense to kind of protect his defense, because when Myles Garrett's out there on the field, he's an absolute beast. He might be one of the greatest pass rushers we've seen since Reggie White. The guy is an animal. He's all over the place, and he's playing like three positions. Now, the Cleveland defense is very good, but their offense has been suspect for years. Cleveland, you guys are just like the Jets. And Cleveland fans, Jet fans, we commiserate. I know Jet fans will say that. At least we have 1969 as a Super Bowl. I don't count it. I think the Jets have 0 Super Bowls because I've never seen one. Cleveland fans have never seen one either. Let Myles Garrett go. Let him go to a team that is a contender. Let that man go somewhere where an organization is actually going to do something, or organization that's actually have something in there, something stable, so that man could go and stand next to somebody and kill quarterbacks, knowing that his coach and his ownership are going to be behind him 100% and get stuff to plug in around him. Now, the one place that I think that Myles Garrett should go is Myles Garrett would be a perfect fit in the Detroit Lions. Now, the Detroit Lions are a team that happened this year. I don't know what happened to the Detroit Lions this year. The Detroit Lions killed everybody. They passed the ball all over the place, scoring hundreds of points this year. Their defense came up big when they needed to. Aaron Glenn is gone now. So what I'm about to say is maybe adding one more player to that Detroit Lions defense would have been the player that put them over the top. But you're also talking about a team who lost their defensive coordinator, and their defensive coordinator happens to be wearing green and white right now. So what are the Detroit Lions going to do about their defensive coordinator? I don't know, but I can tell you one thing. If Myles Garrett is unhappy and they could work out some kind of trade with the Cleveland Browns, Myles Garrett on the other end, waving to Aiden Hutchinson, I think that makes the Detroit Lions still a contender to go back to the NFC Championship and contend for a Super Bowl. Keep an ear on the Titans out there. I read something. I don't know where I read it. I read it on Twitter somewhere, and you know how the internet, is always right, wrong, just hearsay. It's just speculation. But the Tennessee Titans may be looking to shop their first pick. Some teams out there that are going to be really high on that first pick because they want Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, and Cam Ward. These are 3 players that are going to go 1, 2, 3. It's just a matter of what order they're going to go. And with the Tennessee Titans, with the first pick, that first pick could be worth a lot of picks and maybe a lot of players for the Tennessee Titans. Watch for maybe the Giants to make a move up there because I think the Giants might have their eye on Shedeur Sanders. Josh Allen got the MVP. I say good. You know why I say good? Not too many Jet fans are saying that because how could you say good? You're a Jet fan. We hate Josh Allen. We hate the Bills. We hate everything about them. We hate everything about the Dolphins. We hate everything about the Patriots. We hate everything about anybody in our division doing well. Well, I don't look at it that way. I look at it from perspective of I am so mad at my football team right now. I stopped watching the midseason, but I can't stop watching football because I'm a football fan. I stopped paying attention to what was going on and only paying attention to what was going on in Aaron Rodgers' life. Because I'll tell you right now, that is one of the most interesting human beings that is on this planet right now is Aaron Rodgers. So yes, I've been paying attention to him. And no, I have really not been giving the Jets the significance of me watching any of those guys play football until they hired Aaron Glenn. I'll get into Aaron Glenn in a couple of minutes, but let me finish why I am rooting for Josh Allen. I was rooting for Josh Allen, and I'm happy that he got that MVP because the Jets, I'm so mad that I'm just rooting for the Bills. And when they lost, I actually wanted them to win the Super Bowl. That's how much I hate the Jets at this point. But you know what? Congratulations to Josh Allen because you go up against other players. Listen, you could have given it to Lamar Jackson because you know what? Lamar Jackson had a phenomenal season. He had a season that's going to go down in history as Michael Vick-like and maybe a little better. But was he the most valuable player on that team? Possibly. But you know what? If he's not on that team, you have a really, really good running back that could have been a possible MVP as well. So you have 2 possible MVPs on the same team. I don't think either one of them are more valuable. So that knocks them out for MVP in my book. Give it to Josh Allen because the Buffalo Bills without Josh Allen are a 5-win football team. That man does everything. That man calls the plays. That man blocks. That man runs. He scores touchdowns and he throws a hell of a football to 2 wide receivers and a rotation of wide receivers that have been coming in and out of that offensive core there. That Josh Allen is just throwing the ball to anybody and he's running at a high rate, getting killed along the way. And you know what? That touchdown that he scored against Kansas City when he ran right over that Kansas City defense, that put Josh Allen on the map as my vote for MVP. And good luck to you guys next year because you're going to need it because it's only a matter of time before I start talking shit about my Jets and the Bills will be the enemy again. And I am going to be all in with the Jets, but I have to grieve a little bit because it's been way, way too long for me rooting for a football team that I think does not give themselves the best shot to win and does not give me any joy. So let's put that on hold. Enjoy the Super Bowl today. Josh Allen, congratulations. Congratulations from the bottom of my heart for getting the MVP because you know what? You deserve it. Sam Darnold showed in that playoff game that he should have been wearing a green and white jersey. Why do I say that? It's because the Sam Darnold that took snaps for my football team showed up in that playoff game. Sam Darnold might have lost himself $100 million during that loss in that playoff game. How could somebody that played so well all season long shit the bed so badly as Sam Darnold did that last game? Now, I guess he was exposed a little bit because I guess you know as well as I do that going further into the playoffs, the defenses get better, the schemes get better, the coaches get better, and maybe they just figured it out. But the Minnesota Vikings coming in second place this year, winning 14 football games, is a little bit insane to me. But you know what, though? Sam Darnold had a big part in that. I understand they had Justin Jefferson. I understand they had Addison going crazy this year, too. He had a pretty decent running game, an offensive line that was willing to throw down with anybody in the league. But you know what, Sam? He came up small when it mattered. And that's what happened to you when you put on a green and white uniform. I'm not saying the talent's not there. You weren't coached correctly in the green and white. But you know what? Something happened to you in that playoff game, and maybe you just weren't prepared for that big moment. So the Vikings going to have a big decision to make. Are the Vikings going to send you packing and try to maybe get you some money in free agent? Are the Vikings going to say maybe J.J. McCarthy's really not ready yet? I know they love that kid, and I know they want him as their quarterback. But you know what? Sam Darnold, you're probably going to wind up getting a contract somewhere, and you're not going to get the $100-something million contract that you thought you were getting. You're going to get a decent contract, and you might go down on history as a really, really good journeyman quarterback. Well, good luck, Sam, wherever you show up, and good luck to the Vikings because as they are going to go off on that journey next year, probably with J.J. McCarthy at the helm, and they were very, very high on him. The Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers have a huge question mark right now. They have a huge question mark at quarterback. They had Russell Wilson running the plays this year for them. You had Pickens, who was a little bit of a pain in the ass to say the least. Okay. You have Justin Fields on the sidelines. Justin Fields, what happened? I don't know if Justin Fields might be a matter of coaching. Maybe Justin Fields has to run into that right guy that's going to show the kid how to play football. But all I know is he was another guy coming into the NFL that everybody was so high on. This kid's going to be great. He could run. He could throw. Goes to Chicago. He's not the guy in Chicago that everybody thought he was going to be. So what happens? He leaves, goes to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh says, okay, Justin Fields is going to be my quarterback. But wait, we're going to sign Russell Wilson as well. Russell Wilson's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. What are we going to do? We're going to have Justin Fields against Russell Wilson. Who's going to win? So they pretty much choose Russell Wilson as their quarterback. Justin Fields sits on the sidelines, not getting any better, making steps backwards. Okay, so let's look at Justin Fields and let's look at Russell Wilson. I don't think either one of those two guys are going to be starting quarterbacks on the Pittsburgh Steelers next year. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to probably have to go for some crafty veteran, or they're going to have to go some route that a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers fans are not going to want to hear. But I understand that you Steelers fans are used to winning. I understand you Steelers fans are used to being in the playoffs. And I even understand the fact that you think your coach isn't doing his job or you think your coach is terrible. I would take Mike Tomlin in a heartbeat for my football team. He's a no-nonsense guy who lets the coordinators run their shit, and he just leads a team. But you know what, Steeler fans? Maybe you guys are just sick and tired of the same guy. I don't know. I would take Tomlin to helm my football team any day of the week. But Steeler fans, like I said, you are going to have a hard time getting that quarterback unless you come in like a thief in the night and you just give everything up. You keep your team the way it is, and you trade for that first pick with the Tennessee Titans, and you grab one of these quarterbacks, and you start a brand new Pittsburgh Steeler dynasty with Shedeur Sanders. I don't think that's going to happen. That's just me throwing it out there. That's just me being a pot stirrer. I think Sanders is going to play for the Giants, but we will soon see. What else we got going on here? Ja'Marr Chase has not been extended yet, but I think it's a pretty good prediction that Ja'Marr Chase will be extended. He's probably going to get about 35 to 40 a year. But his boy on the other side, T. Higgins, not too happy. T. Higgins thinks he's just as good as Ja'Marr Chase. T. Higgins might be, I don't even think he's even close to it. T. Higgins is a really good wide receiver. T. Higgins is going to get a lot of money, but he's not Ja'Marr Chase. So Cincinnati, you're going to have a real decision to make. Only going to be able to give one of those guys a big contract. I think you're going to probably make the right decision and extend Ja'Marr Chase and make him the highest paid wide receiver, close to Justin Jefferson or maybe surpassing him. And I think T. Higgins, you're going to probably move down the road to another team that's probably going to give you about a $20 to $25 million contract. You're going to have a good season. You're going to have a year. And if you get to the right team, you might put that team over the top to win a Super Bowl. Joe Burrow needs protection, Cincinnati. If you're a Cincinnati fan, if you're listening right now, the owner, anybody that has to do with the Cincinnati Bengals, get that poor kid an offensive line. Get him somebody that could protect him. Get him some 5 dogs that are willing to go to war with Joe Burrow, because another comeback player of the year on Joe Burrow's mantle is doing nothing for his legacy. That kid is an amazing quarterback. He can throw the ball all over the place. I know it helps that he's got Ja'Marr Chase, one of the greatest wide receivers in the game right now, but the kid gets shafted every single year because his offensive line is shit. And they let him run for his life. They let him get his ass kicked, and he's tired by that fourth quarter. So Joe Burrow, whatever you need to do, go out and lobby for some offensive linemen. Do exactly what the Jets did, but what the Jets did didn't work. Well, it worked because it was better than last year. But if Joe Burrow, if you have just a little bit of a good offensive line, you're going to be throwing the ball over the place. You're going to be happy, and you might win a Super Bowl with a better offensive line. The Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys hired Brian Schottenheimer as their coach. Brian Schottenheimer, not Marty Schottenheimer. Marty Schottenheimer, the dad. You guys all remember Marty Schottenheimer? Well, maybe everybody my age remembers Marty Schottenheimer. Guys that are a little younger, maybe you know Brian Schottenheimer. You guys know the Schottenheimers as losers. Now, Brian Schottenheimer was an offensive coordinator for my football team about 15 years ago. Marty Schottenheimer coached a lot of football teams. I can't go off the route, the ones that he coached for right now, but all I know is he could never make it to the big one, or he always lost the big one. Brian Schottenheimer coming in as the Dallas Cowboys head coach has to make the Dallas Cowboy fans seething mad. You have Mike McCarthy there. Mike McCarthy is a veteran coach, a leader of men, has been to Super Bowls, okay? You're bringing in a guy, Brian Schottenheimer, who, as Jerry Jones said, has a lineage, has a history, has a family history. Marty won nothing, Jerry. Marty won nothing. His son, Brian, is the head coach of one of the most polarizing football teams in the sport right now. You guys realize that you just gave your quarterback, Dak Prescott, the largest contract right now for a quarterback? The guy is making, I don't know if he might be making $1 billion. He's the highest paid quarterback right now. You have an upset defensive linebacker, defensive end, defensive everything player. I don't even know what to call this guy because he does it all. Micah Parsons is going to want to be extended. Micah Parsons is going to want to stay or go to a place where you have something concrete, something saying that, yes, we're not just throwing it away. Yes, we're the Dallas Cowboys and we want to win. Not we're hiring Brian Schottenheimer as the head coach and let's see what happens. Micah Parsons is going to need an extension. I know that he's probably going to sign an extension, but he's going to need a big extension because I know he's got a podcast. I know he's got a big mouth, and I know he could be easily swayed by another football team if the Dallas Cowboys are not happily giving him an extension this year and waiting for him to get the free agency. Because you let him get the free agency, he will be gone in a heartbeat. He may even pull a Saquon and go in his own division down to Washington. Who knows? But Micah Parsons definitely needs to get extended. Now, the Giants. The Giants are watching the Super Bowl right now, all knowing they'll never admit it that they made a huge mistake. Now, we could go into logistics of all that happened. We could go into the logistics of people that follow this football team on a daily basis and say, well, this, that, and the other thing. A casual football fan from the outside looking in looks at the Giants right now. Daniel Jones is a backup quarterback in Minnesota. Saquon Barkley is playing to win a Super Bowl and quite possibly have one of the greatest seasons that a running back has ever had in professional football. He is in the conversation. He is in the conversation this year to probably possibly might have another person getting the MVP. He had a season this year that's going to be talked about in the history of football for years and years and years to come. It's going to be, remember that season that Emmett had? Remember that season that Jim Brown had? Remember that season that Barry Sanders had? Remember that season that OJ had? And oh yeah, remember that season that Saquon Barkley had? Because he's going to have about 4 or 5 more of those seasons, because the Philadelphia Eagles, who I'm going to get into in a couple of minutes, have a young and probably the best offensive line in football that will die for those guys. So that's the reason why the Giants right now are at home saying, why did we lose Saquon Barkley? Because you chose to give a graduate of Duke University millions and millions of dollars because he had a couple of good games. The Giants have egg on their face. The Giants are watching the Super Bowl right now. Mara is sitting with all of his ownership buddies, and all of his buddies are going, Mr. Mara, ha, 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 breaking his chops. You made a big mistake, because I'm going to tell you guys at the end of this podcast who I think is going to win the Super Bowl. It's going to be a close game, but whoever's going to win, Mr. Saquon Barkley is going to have a huge game. But you know what, Giant fans? That's okay. You know why? Because like I've been saying in the past, and like I say all the time, the Giants are a legendary legacy organization. The New York Giants are who they are because of what they've done through the years. They win Super Bowls, they win playoffs, and they pick good players. They're on a little bit of a bad run right now, but you know what, though? At least they're not my team, the New York Jets, because the New York Jets have not given me anything to cheer for, anything to root for, anything to be happy for more than maybe a month or two, when we're supposed to get this guy, or this guy's supposed to be good, or maybe we might get here. My whole life as a Jet fan is my whole life as a Jets fan has been saying, what if this? What about this? This guy might be good. I'm glad we got this guy. What if, what if, what if? There's no what ifs anymore. This is a football team that cannot get out of its own way. And I really say all the time the fact that I think that there's something to be said about the fact that there's a curse when it comes to Namath. And it's the worst curse ever. I don't want to get into it again because it's getting kind of funny, but there's something serious going on with the New York Jets, who can never, ever seem to get out of their own way. We have a Hall of Fame quarterback. We have running backs. We have a completely revamped offensive line from last year. We have not one, but 2 running backs. We have not one, but 2 wide receivers. We have an offensive line right now that's completely different than the offensive line the previous season. We have some veterans. We have some rookies. We have some guys that may be playing out of position. But you know what, though? There were 5 men that were better than the 5 men that were there last year. Defense. Before the season started, the Jets defense are going to win football games. What the Jets defense going to do? I'm so curious to see what the Jets are going to do. The Jets defense. The Jets defense is the reason why football games were lost this year. This Jets defense that we were salivating to see for day one. We were salivating to see Aaron Rodgers get back at the helm of that offense. We were salivating to see what a not pissed off defense looks like when they spent the entire season on the field and they were tired by game 10, game 11. They were just shot, tired, and mad at the offense. The defense must have been psyched. We got Aaron Rodgers. The defense was terrible this year. The defense was scared, undisciplined, and did not want to win and did not want to play football games. And that, my friends out there, is what I think of the Jets right now. And what I think of the Jets right now was a direct reflection on coaching. We had a bunch of pussies coaching the football team. And when I say pussies as men, maybe they're not pussies. They're all tough guys. That's not what I'm saying. But none of them had the balls to stand up and tell Aaron Rodgers to shut the fuck up. None of them had the balls to turn around and look at that defensive line and say, take some goddamn accountability. None of those guys on that Jets coaching staff should have been coaching professional football last year. Not Rob Saleh, not any of these guys. Okay? At least with Aaron Glenn coming in there right now, you have a guy that's on a mission. You have a guy that left a winning football team. He didn't get them to where they needed to be, but that was on Campbell. But Aaron Glenn prepared that defense for everything he could. Aaron Glenn played and coordinated defense in the Detroit Lions that played handicapped with men all season. They were down linemen. They were down cornerbacks. They were down, once the lineman would come back, a linebacker would go down. 6 starters were in and out of that Detroit Lions defense throughout the season. And you know what Aaron Glenn did? He got lemons and he made lemonade. That's exactly what happened. So Aaron Glenn is the leader of my football team right now. I'm going to pause when I say, Jets, I'm going to pick you up in a couple of weeks. Happy to see Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn, please, whatever you do, just make men out of that defense. Let these guys run free and let them play football, and maybe they'll be in discussion in a couple of years as one of the better football teams in football. I got an unpopular opinion. I know it is because I listen to Jets podcasts. I listen to Jets TV. I watch interviews and this, that, and the other thing. But you know what? I want Aaron Rodgers back. I want Aaron Rodgers back as a starting quarterback of this football team. I don't know if it's going to be a good look for a rookie head coach and a rookie GM. But you know what? Aaron Glenn has already shown that he is on that football team to give discipline. He is on that football team to let everybody know that I am here, shut the fuck up. And I think that's going to mean Aaron Rodgers too. Because if Aaron Rodgers wants to get along with a guy like Aaron Glenn, he's going to have to succumb to a little bit of, yelling and screaming. Because I think Aaron Glenn is going to keep that football team in line. I think we go to war with Aaron Rodgers for year one. We got that Florida State kid. And hey, we suck next year. We get a pick. Who knows? But anyway, timeout on the Jets till next year because I'm not going to talk about them anymore. And like I said, thank you, Josh Allen. Thank you, NFL, for giving Josh Allen that MVP. Because as a Jets fan and a Buffalo hater, that's the reason why I say bravo, Josh Allen. Jayden Daniels this year, rookie of the year. Jayden Daniels is going to go into his sophomore year next year. I think Jayden Daniels is going to go into his sophomore year looking better than he looked this year. That kid looked like a football player. He looked like a gamer. Dan Quinn's got him playing on all cylinders. He could run, he could throw, he could scramble, and he could run up the middle too. He takes hits. He may have to gain a couple of pounds because he's pretty tall and lanky, but the lankiness, I think, is part of his speed because the way he moves his body and the way he evades tackles, this football team is here to stay. I'm going to shout out to my boy Eddie out in California. Eddie loves the Washington Commanders. I guess we'll call them the Commanders now that they're relevant. The Washington Commanders are going to be here to stay. The Giants are going to be on the bottom basement looking up for a couple of years because there's 3 teams there. Actually, 2 teams because the Dallas Cowboys are a team. They might be one step above the basement looking up. You got the Eagles and the Washington Redskins, Washington Commanders, who are going to be good for years and years to come. Jayden Daniels, bravo on your rookie season, and bravo for almost becoming the only rookie quarterback to take their football team to a Super Bowl. But unfortunately, you met a really hungry, a really good, and a really tough Philadelphia Eagles team that had another thing to say about that. So, Jayden Daniels, keep going. Bill Belichick's at the Super Bowl this week on the red carpet. Bill Belichick's on the red carpet with his girlfriend. Bill Belichick's got a 24-year-old girlfriend. Who wins in that relationship there? Everybody says Bill Belichick is dating a 24-year-old. She's only there for his money. People say that maybe she is there for his money, but Bill Belichick is 70-something years old, doesn't want to just disappear. He's divorced, no strings attached to him. Maybe he's just having fun. There's 2 stories to that. The girl wins because she's dating Bill Belichick. She's dating possibly the greatest coach to ever coach football. I don't know if she's a football fan. I don't know. Maybe she is a gold digger because I can tell you right now, Bill Belichick probably has a shitload of money. But I can tell you one thing. Science has proven that they can produce pills right now. Pills that men like Bill Belichick can take where he can enjoy his 24-year-old girlfriend. So who wins? I think it's a tie right there. She gets Bill Belichick. She gets the fame. She gets the money. He gets to walk around with a hot 24-year-old girl on his arm and, hey, maybe get laid here and there. So there's no winners in that. There's no losers. That's a tie because Bill, you win. And look, she wins too. I don't know what her friends are saying, but she's like, I'm dating Bill Belichick. Who you dating? Anyway, that's a win for both of them right now. Now, the NFL plans to conquer the world. That's right. I said the NFL's plans to conquer the world took one step further over the weekend. The NFL plans, I think, on world domination. Not only have they conquered the entire country, not only have they put a product out there that no matter what is going on that day, if there's a football game going on that day, let alone the Super Bowl, they will either A, just cop to the numbers and say we're going to lose anyway, or B, completely change their day. The NFL is branching out. Now, we've all seen it in England, we've seen it in Mexico, and we've seen it close. It's been announced that next year, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be invading Dublin, Ireland. Now, I have some Irish friends that are from Ireland. I have some friends that love their soccer over there. I have some friends that tell me that the hooligans over there could be pretty tough, and they love their soccer. Pittsburgh Steeler fans, you guys are nuts. You guys are tough. You guys are crazy. How are Pittsburgh Steeler fans going to intermingle next year with some of the toughest soccer hooligans in the world? Maybe some soccer hooligans that don't want to see football coming into their city. Maybe they don't want to see American football. I don't know. I'm just throwing a story out there. You never know. But all I know is world domination wants to be theirs. Lord Vader is up there saying, you know what? It's not enough to go to Germany. It's not enough to go to Ireland. Why don't we go to Australia? Australia, American football in Australia? What are they going to do with football over there in Australia? You know what they're going to do? They're going to go to the game. They're going to wear a jersey from every single football team in the NFL because whatever team goes to Australia, they're not going to know what's going on. I have a really, really good friend of mine. My wife's best friend lives in Australia. She's married to an amazing guy named Mark. Mark doesn't know the first thing about American football, but he could tell you about Australian rules football. Mark could tell you nothing about who the quarterback of the Patriots is. He doesn't know who the quarterback of the Jets is. Well, maybe he does because when I see him once or twice a year that I do, we talk about football. And I can tell you one thing, he could probably care less about what's going on if the NFL goes to Australia. I'm going to ask him, and that would be great because I just saw recently somewhere where Australian people get a lot of views on YouTube. Maybe I'll give that a try. Maybe I'll contact my boy Mark, and maybe Mark will be willing to sit down and do an interview. And you guys could find out what it's like in Australia. I don't know. That's for another show. But anyway, the NFL going to Australia is nothing but the amount of money they're going to be making. They're going to sell the jerseys. They're going to sell the tickets. They're going to have flights. They're going to everything that has to do with the fact that the NFL going to Australia has to do with the mighty dollar. And I understand that everybody's saying that the players are going to want to play another week. They're going to want 18 games. They're going to have 20 weeks. They're going to push their product. At the end of the day, ultimately, I know they want to push their product. So President's Day is the next day, and Super Bowl and the day after are holiday. So eventually they're going to get there by adding another game. They got to maybe get rid of 2 games in preseason, or as we saw, maybe there's something to preseason. Preseason football is a time for conditioning. Preseason is a time for taking a peek at what you got on your team. But the amount of football games that these guys play already, the amount of beatings that they take on a daily basis. Now, let's just take money out of the equation. Let's just take the fact that they're doing what they wanted to do. They're living out their dreams. They're football players. Their dream was to make a lot of money playing professional football. Just take all of that out for a second. Every Sunday, those guys get on a football field and they get the shit beat out of them. You watch the quarterback get beat up. You watch the running back get beat up. The wide receivers run all over the place. But what you don't see is the trenches. Now, the trenches, the D-line, the offensive line, the linebackers, these guys are the ones getting down and dirty in these trenches. These are the guys that are fucking tired. These guys are banging with each other every minute of every play. These guys are the ones that you're going to ask to get on a plane to fly all the way to Australia. I've been there. It's a 24-hour flight. You don't get your shit back until you're about 3 or 4 days in. And look, you guys got to play a football game. But wait, I'm a little delusional. I don't know what's going on. I understand that both teams have to go there. I understand that everybody's got to go through the same thing. But Australia's far. Germany's far. Dublin's far. England's far. But Australia is far. This is going to take a toll on these guys' bodies. It's going to take a toll that everybody wants to see this game played on a high level. Okay. I'm really, really curious to see what they're going to be like when they come back from a road trip, going to Australia and playing a meaningless meaningful, I guess, for their record, but meaningless for their fans. How many, let's just say Cardinals and Saints, how many Cardinals and Saints fans are going to buy tickets to Australia? Great family vacation. That game is going to cost you $50,000 for an American to go see their team play in Australia, unless they can just count on Australians coming to the game and they can bump their tickets up because Australians don't know how much football tickets cost. They're going to pay an arm and a leg. And you know what, though? Let's put every single jersey out there for sale because they're probably going to buy the jerseys too. It's a marketing craziness too. The marketing part's genius. Set up shop in the stadium. Jerseys, 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 tickets, tickets, tickets. That's what it's all about. The players, I'm sure, don't like it, but they're going to go along with it at the end of the day. So, hey, you want to go see a game in Australia? You're going to get your chance in about 2 years. You want to go to Dublin if you're a Steeler fan next year? Go to Dublin. I've never been to Ireland. I hear it's very nice. But you know what? Not going to be good for the players. Let's keep football here in America. And it's not a selfish thing. It's just something from the fact that I feel that it's going to take a toll on the way the game is played as a whole. Now, let's get to it. Today is Super Bowl Sunday. Super Bowl Sunday is being played today by the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. I know what everybody's saying out there. I'm sick of the Kansas City Chiefs. I know what everybody's saying out there. I hate the Eagles. But you know what, though? Whatever team you rooted for this year in the NFL, whatever team that you call your favorite team, whatever team you think should have been here and they're not, at the end of the day, these are the two teams that made it. These are the two teams that are playing together today against each other to tell us who is the best team in the NFL this year, which coach schemed the best, which offense played the best, which team is the best team in football, and who's going to walk off that field with the trophy. Excuse me. I'm going to take a little sip of my coffee before I get into this. Now, these two teams that are playing are not for lack of coaching. Now, we're going to Andy Reid in a second, but Nick Sirianni is in Philadelphia. Nick Sirianni is in his fourth season coaching with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, if you remember correctly, Sirianni brought a 2023 Philadelphia Eagles team to the Super Bowl, where ironically, he went head-to-head against Andy Reid, and they lost. They came up in the losing end of that game. Jalen Hurts, not to lack of him not having a great game, not to lack of Philadelphia not playing well. I think they were down a defensive player or two. But Sirianni went up against Andy Reid, who might be magical. And I'm serious when I say this because you could talk about the refs. You could talk about stuff like that. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. But Andy Reid might be a magician. We may just not be seeing it. Andy Reid might just be like Gandalf, or might be like Merlin, or might be one of these like wizards that's like, hidden in a coaching uniform, because some of the stuff that Pat Mahomes does on a football field is only, to me, watching could be considered magical. I mean, you watch Saquon Barkley this year run, spin, jump, and do like a half a twist hop, and I'm like, that was magical. But that was like one time. You watch stuff Pat Mahomes does on the football field that is literally could only be considered magical. Andy Reid is like that mastermind evil genius you see in some kind of movies, because when I say that, nothing is out of the realm of possibility for a Kansas City Chiefs football team. When you have an athlete like Pat Mahomes running the helm, and Andy Reid says to Pat Mahomes, "This is the play you're going to run," and it's some crazy backhand reverse double switch, I get the ball back and I'm passing to my lineman. It's like Pat Mahomes is just going to say, never going to say, "Coach Reid, you don't think that's a weird play?" No, he's going to say, "Yes, of course." You know why it's going to work? Because you're magical, Andy Reid. So Pat Mahomes goes out there and you watch magical things happen. Now, Andy Reid against Nick Sirianni today is going to be a very, very good matchup in its own, because you have two coaches that there, like I said, Sirianni's second Super Bowl in 4 years as head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. Can't take nothing away from that man. He's got them playing on a high level. Yes, he's got the players, but he also has to coach these guys too, because coaching goes a long way. Now you have Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. You almost have the complete Bill Belichick, Tom Brady formula, because when you talk about Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, again, another magical duo. Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, they're not magical. They have to go purely on the fact that Jalen Hurts is a really good quarterback. Nick Sirianni is a really good coach. You look on the other side, you got Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes have the perfect combination to win Super Bowls. They have the perfect combination to win games. They have the perfect combination to win because they've been playing with each other. They've won Super Bowls together. Hell, they've been in 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls. 5 of the last 6. They're going for a three-peat today. There has to be something to be said about having a high-level 300-win coach in Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes, who instantaneously, as soon as he got to the NFL, became quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs and just made shit happen. You got Travis Kelce out there at tight end. Travis Kelce is going to go down in history as somebody who has a football player that has the most catches in the history of the playoffs and Super Bowl. Travis Kelce this year said, who knows what happens this year? Maybe I might retire. Who knows? Maybe I might ask Taylor Swift to marry me at the end of this game. But everything that has to be said about the Chiefs goes into the fact that they have Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid. You could take players and you could just shuffle them up a little bit and just deal them out to different positions. You deal them out to different positions. You know why? Because it doesn't matter who's on the right side. Doesn't matter who's on the left side. You got Travis Kelce roaming around there. You got some pretty decent running backs. Never a star running back. Well, Pacheco's pretty good, but you're not going to call him a star. But they got running game, and they got running game to who's that guy? Who's this guy? They got wide receivers, but they do have the star at tight end, like I said. You shuffle them together like a card. You deal them out. Pat Mahomes looks around. Not open, looks downfield. I'll just take it myself because Pat Mahomes is the perfect combination of a quarterback that can drop back, look for the run. His offensive line's protected. If offensive line gives in a little bit, he can maybe run this way. Nothing's there. He can spin around, run to the other side. He may stop and somebody might get open for him. You know why? Because all those wide receivers, when Pat Mahomes is on the run, they never stop running. If you watch, they never stop running unless you have what's that lazy guy that they had on the team last year? But anyway, he's gone. But they never stop going. You know why? Because there is a chance that the more Pat Mahomes runs around, the more he's going to make happen. And he'd love to throw the ball 15 yards down the field, 30 yards down the field, 60 yards down the field. But if you're not going to get open, he's just going to run and get the first down himself. Now, that's a matchup right there. Matchup number 1 that I'm going to look at for this Super Bowl. Pat Mahomes, but on the other side, you're looking at a defense that's coming into the Super Bowl as the number 1 passing defense in the NFL. They have been best against the pass this entire season. They've contained the passes. They got good running backs. They've been chasing quarterbacks. They've been sacking quarterbacks. So Pat Mahomes is going to be forced to do stuff that he does all the time. I'm not saying he's going to be forced to do stuff that he doesn't normally do, but he's going to be being forced to do stuff by a defense that is running on all cylinders. They have a defensive line that, without a doubt, is going to be chasing him all day. They have young cornerbacks. Young cornerbacks don't get tired. Young, talented cornerbacks don't get tired, and they do their job. You have safeties on that team that are willing to hit hard, and you got a couple of middle linebackers on there that if the defensive line gets past that offensive line and they chase Pat Mahomes out of the pocket, Pat Mahomes getting ready to make a shot, these linebackers are going to be right there, making it a lot harder than most of the teams have been on Pat Mahomes because this defense is going to be go, go, go all day. That's going to be the key to beating the Kansas City Chiefs today. The key to beating the Kansas City Chiefs today is instantaneously, whoever's lining up on Travis Kelce, hit Travis Kelce as hard as you possibly can. Hit Travis Kelce hard to a point where he's got to drop back a half a step and say, oh, shit. These guys mean business. So maybe Travis Kelce on some plays where he's supposed to go out and get a quick pass, he might be forced to stay back and block a little bit. So that means you make him scared. That means you make Mahomes a little scared that he's going to get hurt. Then he can hurt you from the outside and throw the ball. But you know what, though? If that defensive line gets past that offensive line, the middle linebacker is going to be there. So force Pat Mahomes to make plays with his feet. He's going to kill you if you let him stay in the pocket because he's going to pass to somebody. And if somebody's not open, he's just going to run. So this Philadelphia defense has to contain. And when I mean contain, they have to hit Mahomes. The only quarterback in the history of football that you're really going to say this about is you have to do the same thing to Pat Mahomes that you do to Tom Brady. Now, these are quarterbacks that are in the same breath because 2 of them are the greatest that ever put on cleats. Just happens to be recent players. You could say, oh, this guy's better than this. Pat Mahomes hasn't done anything. Pat Mahomes has done a lot. Pat Mahomes has done a lot more than most quarterbacks have done in their entire seasons before the age of 30 years old. So you have to control Pat Mahomes like when the Patriots happened to lose or the Patriots went down, you know why? Because the defense beat the shit out of Brady. The defense made Brady crazy. The defense made Brady starts yelling and screaming at his offensive line, asking them, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? They have to beat up Pat Mahomes the same way. They have to beat up Pat Mahomes. They have to maybe suffer maybe a late hit, maybe a 15-yarder if they're way, way back. Hit him a little late. They have to suffer the fact that they may get a run downfield. But you know what, though? If you have a clear hit on him, knock him down. He may get the pass off because that's what he does, but knock him down. Give him a little bit of a headache. Give him a little bit of a jolt. Give him a little bit of a Philadelphia Eagles welcome. Because if the Philadelphia defense plays as well as the attitudes on the Philadelphia Eagles fans, because I'll tell you right now, Philadelphia Eagle fans are savage animals, as are the Philadelphia Eagles, and as are the Philadelphia Eagles defense today, which I think that they should be swarming all over Pat Mahomes if they want to win this football game. Another very interesting matchup, I would say, and another matchup that I really want to be looking at here is the fact that Saquon Barkley is entering this football game as having one of the greatest running back seasons ever in the history of football. That's right. Think of every single running back that ran the football in the history of football. Saquon Barkley is going to be up there in the conversation to having one of the greatest seasons ever for a running back. This running back can do everything. This running back could run. This running back could hit. This running back could get yards after the hit. Now, the yards after the hit is going to be very important. You know why they said the yards after the hit is going to be very important? Because they're going up against a Kansas City Chiefs defense who's been playing really, really good. They've been the tops in every category or top 5 throughout the entire season. But the number one tackling defense coming into the Super Bowl today is the Kansas City Chiefs. That means nobody in the rest of the NFL has more tackles or has more hard hits than the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, that being said, Saquon Barkley is going to get hit. Saquon Barkley is going to get hit, and he's going to have to keep on moving. So this matchup of Saquon Barkley going up against the defense of the Kansas City Chiefs is going to be very interesting to me because if they do key on Saquon Barkley, which is what I kind of think that they are going to do today when you think about it, because Saquon's going to be the guy. Now, just because Saquon's the guy on this football team, don't take away from the fact that Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown are 2 wide receivers that I don't understand why the 2 of them aren't being spoken as 2 of the best wide receiver tandems in football. I guess the reason being is because Jalen Hurts is a very unselfish quarterback. There's something about him I don't like when I watch him play, but if you look at his numbers, he's an unselfish quarterback. He'll run, he'll pass, he'll dump the ball off. So he has 2 wide receivers in Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown that could break a big one at any time. So if the Kansas City Chiefs defense is going to be keen on Saquon Barkley to run or even to come out of the backfield, that's going to leave 2 wide receivers wide open at times, and they are going to throw the big ball. That's the thing I was going to say about Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, again, he's going up against the number 1 tackling defense in the NFL, the number 1 defense for pressuring the quarterback. Jalen Hurts can run a little bit. He's not as mobile as Pat Mahomes, but I think that it's a imperative that the first couple of plays of the game, you send Devontae Smith long. You send him long. You send A.J. Smith to a couple of deep in-out patterns. You take a couple of long shots in the first couple of possessions to kind of keep the defense at bay a little bit. And then the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter, you kind of unleash Saquon. You kind of use Saquon in the first quarter. You dump him out. You give him a couple of 1-2 yard runs. Because listen, you give Saquon 3 quarters where he's got the defense standing on their toes. Saquon's going to have a day today where he's going to be the MVP, saying that the Eagles win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that yet, but if the Eagles do win the Super Bowl today, Saquon's going to have a huge day. So what's going to have to happen here is Jalen Hurts is very lucky when it comes to, who his hold on, guys. I have to plug my computer in. Battery is going dead. 1 second here. Pause when I put it out as a podcast. I will. There we go. Okay. Jalen Hurts has a luxury with this Philadelphia Eagles defense that a lot of teams don't have. They have an offensive line who last year lost one of the greatest centers ever in Jason Kelsey, happens to be Travis's brother. Who he's pretty funny. He's a little bit of a weirdo. I like his take on a lot of things, but how he's showing up to the Super Bowl with 100 Jason Kelseys or whatever it is, I think he's pretty genius. I know it's probably, it's definitely a push for his podcast, so I think it's pretty good. But maybe I'll have a podcast as big as theirs one day. But you know what? I'm not a professional athlete. But you know what? Maybe I'll take this one day. This is all practice, guys. 2 years from now, I'm going to be a professional. But this is all practice. But anyway, back to what I was saying about Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has one of the best offensive lines in football. They have the best running back in football. They have two of the best wide receivers in football. And on the other side of the football, what I said to you last time, they have the number one passing defense, and they're not too bad against the run either. So Philadelphia, more than any other team, I think, in the last 4 or 5 years that the Kansas City Chiefs are coming into this game, Kansas City Chiefs are coming in and playing a Super Bowl today against a team that's going to be ready, first of all. And secondly, I think could win the football game. The spread on this game is 1 point. There's going to be a lot of money being bet on this football game today. There's going to be a lot of money line bets because I think the point there, well, I think I gave you guys a stat on the beginning of this where the Kansas City Chiefs have won 17 one-point football games in a row. Andy Reid and that offense/defense has won 17 one-point football games in a row. We've seen this team. We've seen close Super Bowls in the past. If it's a close Super Bowl, down by 3, tied football game, Philadelphia kicking the last point. Their kicker, I don't know. Kansas City Chiefs, on the other hand, have a kicker on their side that Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes both said the other day. We could win the game on a 70-yard field goal. I think Harrison Butker could kick it. Close game, they got the kicking game. Big game, that means the Eagles have run all over them and passed all over them. I'm also very curious to see how Spagnuolo handles the tush push. The absolute most boring play in the game of football. But it works every single time. Spagnuolo going to have something to defend it? Is Sirianni going to be like, I know they're going to defend it, and they're going to set up for maybe a fake tush push? All I know is it's the most boringest play in the NFL, and it works 80% of the time. Mr. Spagnuolo, what are you going to do about that? Close game. Comes down to a field goal. You never know. Money line, I'm taking the Eagles because I think the Eagles are going to win the game outright. 1 point, I'm taking the Eagles. Final score of this football game, it's going to be 31-23 in favor of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I'm going to go upstairs in a little while, and I'm going to make a bunch of bets with my son. We're going to go on have fun with our, FanDuel, DraftKings account or whatever. But I am going to make one serious bet here. I'm going to make bets of money on it. I am betting the Eagles to win money line, Saquon Barkley to have 2 touchdowns, and Jalen Hurts to throw 1. That's my bet today. I don't know what the odds are, but I'm throwing a couple of bucks down on that. Have some fun today with the Super Bowl, guys, because today's a good betting day. Don't get yourself in trouble. If you have a betting problem, that's just a problem, like anything else. But why not throw $100 in an account today, guys, and have some fun betting? Why not, dads out there, if you know your son's over there on his cell phone, you really don't want to talk to him about betting yet, or you don't want to talk to him, take a peek over. It's pretty fun to do. Me and my son break each other's chops all the time. I'm not condoning gambling, but if you know your son's over there and he's on his cell phone and you just haven't said anything yet, get into it with him. Maybe it could be a good talking point. And the referee situation. I know it's there. It is what it is. The NFL wants the Kansas City Chiefs to win. That's why Philadelphia winning this football game is so imperative. That's why Philadelphia going up on this Kansas City football team by at least 2 touchdowns is so important. And the fact that the referees are going to be looking for it, the fans know it. Maybe this game is going to be reffed a little bit different. Who knows? Maybe they're going to be more stringent. Maybe they're going to let some stuff go on Philadelphia's side. Maybe they're going to let a late hit or two on Pat Mahomes. Who knows? But all I know is at the moment, we are at the mercy of the referees. Whether they're corrupt or not, they're the ones that are calling the football games. A lot of these plays have been blatant. A lot of these plays have been outright preposterous. That's the only word I can think to use. A lot of these plays have been preposterous that these referees are called. But it's the fact of life that we live in, that we can complain about it all we want, but until it's changed, that is what it is. So let's go into today's football game, and the referees might make some shitty plays. They might make some bad calls. But you know what, though? Let's try and enjoy this football game today. And the football game today is going to be, let's say, it's probably going to go down in history as one of the closer, more enjoyable to watch in the history. Now, there is one thing I want to talk about, and it has to do with the fact that Taylor Swift is going to be there. And Taylor Swift is going to be there with my girl, Caitlin Clark. Now, it's no secret that on the Murph and E-Dub show, I Keep Talking 365, on Shooting the Breeze, I love Caitlin Clark. I love her as a basketball player. I love her as a human being. And she's a little too young for me, but who knows? Caitlin Clark is one of my favorite athletes in the entire professional sports world right now. I could go into why. I could go and do a whole podcast as to why. But you guys all know what she does on the court. You guys all know some of her reactions to some of the stuff that people say about her. But bottom line is, she is one of the toughest individuals I have ever seen put sneakers on a professional court. That being said, she's going to be sitting in the booth today with Taylor Swift watching the Super Bowl. NFL, it's great. You know, you have Taylor Swift, in the box. It's great. You're going to have more eyes on the game. I'm not saying this from a perspective from I'm just an old codger, I'm an old man. NFL, we don't need Taylor Swift. And this is going to sound a little, maybe offensive. I don't know if it's offensive or not, but we don't need 10,000 teenage girls at the Super Bowl just to see Taylor Swift, just to get a glimpse of her. And knowing all well that the minute they see Taylor Swift or they don't see her anymore, they're going to be on their phones or they're going to want to leave. So those are about 10,000 fans that, let's be honest, NFL, you could fill any venue. You could fill the Carolina Panthers stadium with football fans on any given Sunday. Why? Because you're the NFL. Why? Because you're one of the most successful organizations on the entire planet next to FIFA, the soccer. The NFL is a juggernaut. I just don't think you guys need to market it out there to more eyes. More eyes at the stadium, more eyes on the game. I understand more money. I understand it's good for business. But when it comes to a point of football, you don't need any more eyes on it. The eyes that are on football are the eyes you want. 10,000 teenagers showing up or watching just because Taylor Swift might be on the TV. It's good for Super Bowl. It really is. It's good because it's a family, it's a family atmosphere. Dads are there. They have daughters. And I understand that whole aspect of it. I really, really do. And it doesn't even bother me. The only thing that really kind of does bother me is it's just another ploy to get more money. So listen, Swifties, enjoy it. Taylor Swift, enjoy it. Caitlin Clark, enjoy it. Because today, for the first time ever, now this is going to be interesting because for the first time ever, and don't worry, I'm not going to go on a political rant right now, and I'm not going to talk politics, but politics is happening to trickle over into the Super Bowl today. Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States of America, will be at the Super Bowl today. Now, this is something that's going to cause high-risk security. Security is going to be at an all-time high. So, Taylor, I know you're there today, and I know security is pretty tight when you're there, but just know that this extra security that's there today is for the president of the United States of America, who you kind of, I guess you guys would say that you don't see eye to eye. So this is going to be interesting having the Swifties and the Trumpers. Listen, I voted for Donald Trump for president. I'm pretty happy with the job that he's doing right now. There's a couple things we need to discuss, but other than that, he's doing a good job. He's the president. Taylor Swift has been outwardly against the president of the United States of America. I just hope that the Swifties and the hardcore Trumpers, who are hardcore on both ends, could just sit back and relax and enjoy the Super Bowl. Because if you're still listening to this podcast right now, I got a whole bunch of honest shit to say about our country. And that's either going to come later or tomorrow morning. But that's definitely for another podcast. So Donald J. Trump, I don't know if you just made it worse or if it made it easier, but security is going to be at an all-time high. Be careful. They tried to kill you once, then that does not mean that they're only trying to kill you once. That means they're going to try it again. Stand up, put that fist up, welcome everybody to the Super Bowl, and then hide. Get the fuck out of plain sight, and let's watch the football game. I'd rather keep the eyes on the Swifties and Taylor